Hey everybody, Tyler McVicker here. Today we're going to be sharing some of my E3 predictions, speculation, based on a whole lot of different stuff. So this is not really an overarching predictions video on everything that I think we're going to see from E3, but instead it's a predictions video, a speculative video on everything that I want to see from E3, everything that I'm aware of coming to E3 that I personally care about. Valve is not going to be at E3. Valve doesn't go to conventions. If you are watching this video hoping that I say, well, Valve will be at E3 and they're gonna blah, blah, they never go to conventions. I have a secret though. I have a secret. For Nintendo, pretty obvious that the Switch Pro needs to happen. There's a lot of conjecture as to when it'll get announced, and it doesn't really matter. In case you're unaware, TSMC is no longer giving bulk prices to anybody due to the international chip shortage. Effectively meaning no matter how many orders that you place, even if you're a massive corporation, you're still paying full price for each of the individual chips. Nvidia has stopped production, or is in the process of ceasing production, on the Tegra X1 Plus system on a chip. This is the SoC that runs at the heart of the current Nintendo Switch model. That means that if Nintendo wants to be able to continue supporting the Nintendo Switch platform and selling consoles over the next few years, they need to rebuild the hardware without the Tegra X1 Plus in mind. It's not a question of if Nintendo will be doing a Switch Pro, it's a question of when. The current rumor is that Nintendo needs to announce it before E3 so that any third party making content for the Switch Pro can talk about it without worry of leaking anything or stepping on Nintendo's toes. As for features, with the Nintendo Switch Pro, or as I like to call it, the Super Switch, having an expanded amount of resources on a technical side, certain things that are likely not possible because of the current model of Switch's resources, such as custom themes, Nintendo Switch Online support for things like the Game Boy Advance or Nintendo 64, or higher resolutions, Bluetooth, an upgradable dock, built-in Ethernet. These types of things are very expected for the new model of Nintendo Switch. Most importantly, the hardware itself will be modeled a bit differently. There's already a video on this out there, but according to some of the last firmware updates, data mined, the actual dock itself is capable of being upgraded nowadays, firmware updates, which given the current model of the dock seems unnecessary. It does very, very little, and whatever firmware it is running is likely incredibly simplistic. So this does hint towards a more robust dock, and that dock will likely house some kind of chipset from Nvidia that allows for some sort of proprietary offshoot of their DLSS upscaling solution, which is their AI upscaling solution that can be found in their current line of RTX graphics cards. I think it also supports 10 series GTX graphics cards. It's an AI upscaling solution that natively runs it at a lower resolution and then uses AI packets to be able to produce a sharper image using some kind of machine learning that was done beforehand. And then in terms of games, we're likely going to hear something about Breath of the Wild 2, but everything that I hear about it seems to be that it's kind of scope creeped itself into an entire development cycle again. It's known through interviews with Eiji Aonuma and a few other of the developers on the team that it originally started as just DLC ideas, and then those DLC ideas just snowballed into, oh, okay, well, then we'll reuse the world space. Oh, but if we're gonna do, we might as well and then we'll do, and then co-op 2022 at the earliest. Super Mario Party 2, all but confirmed at this point. Some kind of 2D Metroid, heavily rumored, possibly taking inspiration from the long-canceled Metroid Dread project. WarioWare information is going all over the place. WarioWare, Rhythm Heaven, that team at Nintendo responsible for those games, is my single favorite team that has ever existed on the internal side of Nintendo. They've never made a bad game. Obviously, we're gonna have like 15 minutes of Splatoon 3, and also we're gonna talk about 10 minutes on Shin Megami Tensei 5, which did leak as to having a November release date. exclusively on the Nintendo Switch. And then, of course, ports. Skyward Sword is being remade or remastered. It's being ported to the Nintendo Switch. There are trademarks already filed for remasters of Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, the DS Zelda games, Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks. And then there's rumors of individual eShop releases of the games that were originally packaged with 3D All-Stars, including Galaxy 2, which was not part of that original bundle. Paper Mario 64 possibly getting a remake has been a rumor going around for a long time. And then Metroid Prime Trilogy has existed in some capacity internally at Nintendo, and they're kind of waiting for Metroid Prime 4 to be ready. And as far as I have heard rumors that shoot is in development hell. And then, of course, the development studio behind things like Tetris 99, SM35, Pac-Man 99. They are working on other projects. Exactly what they are, no idea. Everybody gets themselves super hyped up that they're going to announce all the things they want. That never happens. I don't think that has ever happened in the history of Nintendo Directs. This is no different. It's gonna be Port City. You're gonna hear a lot about Splatoon 3. You're gonna hear an uncomfortable amount about Shin Megami Tensei 5. Also, Persona 5 Royale is almost definitely coming to the Switch, but I don't think that'll be in the Microsoft showcase. I am very excited for, because Microsoft acquired through the last couple of years almost every major PC gaming studio that I care about, other than like Valve and the indies. And for me, the biggest game that I'm anticipating is obviously Starfield. What is important is Starfield is going to be at the show in some form. Starfield's not coming out this year. It's just not. It's very obviously coming out in 2022. And Todd Howard loves to kind of really announce a game right before they release the game. Starfield is not a known quantity. Starfield's this brand new IP that does, as far as I'm aware, change some of the core concepts and mechanics that people come to expect in a Bethesda Game Studios game. But as for what we're going to be seeing at E3, there's one of three rumors going around. It's either just a CG trailer to introduce people to the lore, the general feeling of everything, like a much longer version of what you saw at E3 2018. It could also be a full gameplay trailer, or it could be a full Todd Howard 10-minute showcase. All three of those have been rumors floating around the community. I'm hearing either fourth quarter 2022 or March 2022. Wolfenstein 3. Machine Games released Wolfenstein Youngblood in collaboration with Arcane a couple of years ago, and it was like a side story that a lot of people disliked. I haven't played it yet. I have yet to form my opinion. Form your own opinion in the games industry, people. Play games before you yell about them. That said, the ending of the trilogy that Wolfenstein The New Order started out, and the New Colossus very obviously ended on they need to do the third game, and all we really know about it is you kill Mecha Hitler at the end of it. This third game is closer than we think and has been the main focus of Machine Games for years at this point. I do anticipate seeing something about Wolfenstein 3 at the Microsoft showcase. Omen. This one's a wild card. Arcane Studios, best known for the Dishonored series, and more recently, Prey 2017. Well, they're two studios. There's one in Lyon, France, and one in Austin, Texas. The Lyon, France branch of Arcane has been working on Deathloop for years, and Deathloop has been delayed twice. Once it was originally supposed to come out Q4 of last year, and then they delayed it to like May, and they did a full spread in Game Informer and delayed it right after all the Game Informer coverage came out. I don't think you're going to see Deathloop at all at the show. Instead, Arcane Austin has been rumored to be working on this game project codenamed Omen, created and helmed by Dishonored co-creator Harvey Smith, whom has been working at the Lyon branch for years, but moved back to the Austin branch to work on this project a couple of years ago. This is a UE4 game based either inspired by the Vampires universe or based in the Vampires universe, called Omen. The Arcane Austin team has been working on it since before Prey Mooncrash even released, and that's actually the case for whatever they're working on. If the Omen rumor is total bunk, Fallout re-releases. The Fallout franchise is going to be untouched in a new, wholly original capacity for a very long time, because the core BGS studios, they got Starfield, and then you got the Elder Scrolls 6, so you're looking at over a decade for Fallout 5. Fallout 76 is meant to fill that void, but unfortunately it just comes with so much stigma that a lot of people aren't really going to be touching it and filling that Fallout hole. But they're probably going to start re-releasing Fallout 4 in the same way that they keep re-releasing Skyrim. There's been rumors going around for a long time that Bethesda's going to remake Fallout 3 in the Fallout 4 engine. And then there's updates. Bethesda Game Studios games are almost always treated like live services for a while after release. And even though Microsoft might not give these teams stage time to talk about, live service game updates, we're likely going to be hearing about some of it throughout the E3 week. Fallout 76 is set to be receiving Expeditions, which is explorations of smaller world spaces based on games past. In the game, right now, in the game's files, there are cells for what looks like DuPont Circle from Fallout 3. I feel like that could be a really cool way of bringing people in, letting people explore, the best of the Mojave, the Commonwealth, the Wasteland, or maybe even places from Fallout 1 and 2 brought to life in 3D. We also know that private servers are going to be coming, like private moddable servers are going to be coming pretty soon. There's a bunch of assets, especially for the HUD in the game's files right now. And new world spaces. This is more of a complete guess from me, but if Fallout 76 is going to continue to try and fill the void that is going to exist in the franchise for the next decade, hopefully it gets the same kind of treatment that ESO gets, where eventually just entirely new world spaces get added into the game. Appalachia is awesome, but eventually Appalachia will wear thin, and as a late game, post game player, it's wearing thin. ESO just had the Blackwood update. I don't expect to hear much from them. Elder Scrolls Legends development is pretty much over. However, Quake Champions keeps getting updates. It's still marked as early access. It gets like quarterly seasonal updates, and it just got like this old Quake 1 Ranger skin added in. That's pretty cool. I play Champions all the time. We might hear something about it, and it's also rumored that id's next game is going to be a Quake reboot. There's a video about that coming one day, so they might hint towards that. The big one is Doom Eternal. I'm gonna take a guess and say Invasion Mode is canceled. I think it's just way too much work. However, we're going to keep getting master levels. We're going to keep getting cosmetic series. 2 new ones just got pushed, and battle mode will continue getting updated. We already have leaks related to a new map, and at least 2 new demons, as far as I know. Definitely 1, probably 2. Obsidian, responsible for things like Fallout New Vegas, The Outer Worlds, Pillars of Eternity, Tyranny, and the recently released early access survival game Grounded, which everyone's sleeping on. Right now, it seems like there's 3 or 4 projects going at Obsidian right now. Tim and Leonard's project, Tim Kaine, Leonard Boryovsky, the co-creators of Fallout and The Outer Worlds, I'm gonna guess they're working on The Outer Worlds 2. They had a bunch of ideas for The Outer Worlds 2 when they did the interview roundup for The Outer Worlds 1. Tim seemed very happy with The Outer Worlds. Leonard seemed like he was very upset that they made a few too many cuts. Private Division and Obsidian did not have enough time or resources to fully realize The Outer Worlds in the way they wanted. The big thing that if you do your research, they've said in the NoClip documentary and a couple of the interviews they've done, they had to chop out the entire last third of the main quest. That included, I think, 2 planets, one of which still sits in the files right now. You can access it through console commands. It's very unfinished. But the big other thing they had to cut was this like commander British military officer companion and companion reputation. The companions were going to react to you, get angry with you, leave you, kind of like Fallout 4. That entire system was partially written, still kind of exists in the game in a very unfinished state, with a bunch of voice work for all of the companions yelling at you or being happy with you. And it seems like that's the thing that Leonard was very upset they cut. I'm pretty sure that Tim and Leonard just immediately started work on another one because people really like The Outer Worlds. I mean, I don't know. I fucking loved it. I've played it 3 times, and I'm probably going to play it again for a video I'll likely do on Obsidian. Josh Sawyer, he said something, in case you don't know. Josh Sawyer has been working on the Fallout franchise for years and has been working in the Pillars franchise for a long time now. Josh Sawyer was the lead director, whatever, for Fallout New Vegas. He worked on Van Buren. He worked on Fallout 2. And Josh Sawyer is apparently working on something. Here's a fun fact about Josh Sawyer. He tweeted a couple of months ago to tell people he was going to stop answering questions about Fallout New Vegas shortly after the Microsoft acquisition going through. Avowed is the first-person immersive sim-esque RPG that's based in the Pillars universe. It's their Skyrim killer. The Outer Worlds is to Fallout as Avowed is to Skyrim. I am very excited for that game. I really hope we see something, but it's definitely a few more years off. Is Obsidian working on a Fallout game? I mean, maybe? I would rather them not. I'm gonna be real. I would rather them not. Make the Outer Worlds 2, make Avowed, make your own stuff. You don't have to make New Vegas because you got In Exile. Okay, so In Exile, Brian Fargo's team. Brian Fargo helped create Fallout 1. Brian Fargo started In Exile. He's best known right now for the Wasteland reboot series, Wasteland 2, and most recently Wasteland 3. They did the remake of Wasteland 1 in Unity. They did the Bard's Tale remake, Bard's Tale 4, which is great. Two things about In Exile. Well, three things, actually. Number one, Wasteland 3 is getting some campaign DLC. The first one just came out. They're likely to announce their next one at sometime at E3, maybe. A couple of months ago, might have been last year, they started listing job offers for first-person RPG development. In Exile may be working on a first-person RPG. Here is a random other fact about In Exile. Brian Fargo recently re-registered the trademark for Van Buren. In case you don't know, Van Buren was the code name for the project originally intended to be the original developers of Fallout's Fallout 3. A few of the ideas from Van Buren and the game they were planning to make after Van Buren inspired New Vegas. And then you've got a crazy rumor. Just gonna throw it out there. I heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy kind of thing. Gabe Newell and Phil Spencer have been apparently talking. And I heard from somebody, this isn't alleged, take it with a grain of salt, that the only way Steam can get Game Pass is if Xbox can get Steam. There's a Warner Brothers show. Warner Brothers is apparently dissolving their games division soon, so I don't know why they're having a show. The main focus of the show is Back 4 Blood, and I'm anticipating Back 4 Blood. I'm worried Warner Brothers will really screw up its release. I'm anticipating it. They had to delay it to October. Good. And we're likely going to be getting a beta announcement at E3 during the Warner Brothers showcase, which is great. I'm really excited to see where the game is at. Like 6 months, 7 months following the original alpha playtest that took place last December. 2K has a show, and even though I'm sure they're just going to talk about GTA Online the whole time, BioShock 4 is kind of sitting out there. BioShock 4 was announced like 2 years ago. 2K put together a new team specifically to develop this new BioShock game in a similar manner to how they handled BioShock 2. The original developers behind BioShock 1 and BioShock Infinite may have nothing to do with this. There are rumors going around that this BioShock 4 takes place in London and that it might be a PlayStation exclusive. Grain of salt. Lastly, boomer shooters. Oh man, are there so many boomer shooters that are going to get announced. The big companies obviously to keep an eye out for are 3D Realms, Night Dive Studio, and of course my man Dave Oshry over at New Blood. Highly anticipating the Fallen Aces demo, which I'm hearing we're going to be getting soon. I'm sure there's going to be a whole bunch of games announced that I'm super looking forward to. There's so many boomer shooters and I love them all. And then virtual reality. PSVR 2, I'm sure we're going to get some information on eventually. Definitely not directly from Sony. They're not doing anything at E3, but other companies that might be making PSVR titles will likely talk about them. And the same goes for Quest 2 games. Same can't be said for Steam VR games because Valve isn't trying with Steam VR, but what can you do? And those are my E3 predictions. Those are my E3 predictions. I'm going to be streaming all of the major E3 showcases that involve the stuff we've talked about today on the Twitch page. Link to that down in the description below. It's going to be super fun couple of days. I always enjoy when E3 comes around, and I hope we can hang out, discuss the news, look into the press releases, and try and find the news that isn't initially announced in your face during the live stream. And I hope you guys have a good day. Anyways, I'm Tyler McVicker, signing off. Adios.